All right, let's just dive right in. There's a really strange paradox happening in the modern workplace. We have more tools, more data, more ways to connect than at any point in history, and yet something just feels broken. You have leaders who are feeling this immense pressure while employees are just checking out. It's a full-blown crisis of trust, and today we're going to break down exactly why it's happening and, more importantly, what we can do to fix it.
So, get this. On one side of the coin, you have leaders. They're basically operating in a constant state of paranoia. They are under so much pressure, they're terrified of making a single mistake, and they feel this nonstop need to control everything. Then, on the other side, you have their employees. And how are they responding? With apathy. But this isn't about laziness. No, it's a quiet, emotional withdrawal. It's a psychological defense mechanism. You've got two completely opposite mindsets, and they're fueling one massive downward spiral.
So the big question is, why now? Why is this happening when we have all this advanced software and all these incredible communication platforms? Shouldn't we be more aligned, more trusting than ever? Well, as it turns out, this isn't some accident. It's a direct result of our modern work environment. To really get what's going on, we need to look at something we'll call the vicious cycle of control. This is a self-perpetuating system that honestly traps everyone, leaders and employees alike. And the crazy part is, it often starts with good intentions, a real desire for excellence. But it quickly spirals into this toxic loop of control and disengagement that ends up destroying the very results it's trying to achieve. It all kicks off with pressure. We're talking relentless, intense pressure from investors, from competitors, from just an incredibly uncertain market. This constant stress literally activates a primal part of a leader's brain, pushing them into what psychologists call a threat mode. When that happens, rational thinking kind of takes a back seat to raw survival instincts. And that threat mode, it gives rise to a specific behavior called defensive leadership. This is such a key concept to understand. It's what happens when a leader's psychological need to feel in control, to protect themselves from getting blamed, becomes way more important than the actual success of the team or the project. And here you can see exactly how all these pieces click together into that destructive cycle. It starts with step 1, intense pressure. This creates step 2, a deep fear of making mistakes. This leads directly to step 3, defensive leadership, and of course, micromanagement. So how do employees react? With step 4, apathy and imitation. And what does that lead to? Inevitably step 5, poor results, which, you guessed it, just creates step 6, even more pressure on the leader. And the cycle starts all over again, only this time, it's even worse. So where does the cycle of control ultimately lead? Well, it leads to something pretty unique to our digital age, a phenomenon we can call digital imitation. Let's take a look at how employees have adapted to this era of hyper-control in a really subtle and very modern way. When people feel like they aren't trusted, when every single click is monitored and every status is constantly being checked, they rarely stage some big open rebellion. Instead, they do something much quieter. They retreat. They just save their energy, doing just enough to stay off the radar. It's not a protest. It's an act of self-preservation in a system that doesn't reward their genuine effort. And this leads us to this fascinating and frankly damaging modern behavior, digital imitation. This is the art of looking busy for the algorithm. It's all about keeping your team's status screen, constantly jiggling your mouse, sending emails at weird hours. It is the performance of work, and it takes the place of the actual, creative, risky, meaningful work that really drives results. You can really see how much technology has just changed the entire game when you compare the workplace before and after the year 2000. Before, control was about physical presence, seeing you at your desk. Authority came from your job title. But now, control is all about digital metrics, and authority is often based on your competence, not just your spot in the hierarchy. And maybe the most important part, look at who gets the blame. It used to be the system. Now it's just so easy to blame the algorithm. And all of this digital imitation leads to this great control paradox. Here's the irony. The more a leader tries to monitor and control everything through data, the less they actually know about what's really going on. What they get is a dashboard full of green lights and positive-looking metrics, but it's a completely distorted reality. It's just a performance, and it's hiding the fact that real innovation and risk-taking have completely ground to a halt.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's a pretty bleak picture, I know, but there is an antidote. There is absolutely a way to break this destructive cycle, and it has nothing to do with a new piece of software.
So that's the big question, right? How do we get out of this mess? If more control just keeps making things worse, then what's the alternative?
Well, the answer isn't another productivity app or forcing everyone into more alignment meetings, which, let's be honest, are often just micromanagement in disguise. The real solution is a profound psychological and cultural shift. It's about moving toward what we can call mature leadership.
So what is mature leadership? It's really built on three core pillars. First, radical transparency, sharing information openly and honestly. Second, genuine autonomy, giving people the actual freedom to solve problems their own way. And third, and this one is the most important of all, psychological safety. Psychological safety is the absolute bedrock of any high-performing team. It's all about creating an environment where people aren't afraid to fail. It's a culture where mistakes are seen for what they truly are: valuable data. They become opportunities to learn and innovate, not reasons to punish and blame someone. And by embracing these principles, you start to repair something truly fundamental: the broken psychological contract. See, every workplace runs on this invisible agreement that says, I will give you my honest effort, and you, in return, will treat me honestly and fairly. Paranoia and apathy absolutely shatter that contract. Mature leadership is what rebuilds it. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final, really powerful way to think about this entire issue. I want you to think of trust as the operating system of your organization. It's not just a feature or an app. It is the foundational code that everything else runs on. You can have the most brilliant strategy in the world, the most expensive software, but if that underlying OS of trust is corrupted, nothing is going to work properly. The entire system will eventually crash.
And here's the thing, you can't install this new operating system with a memo or a PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't come from just talking about it. Trust is rebuilt through consistent, credible actions, day in and day out. It's all about behavior, not buzzwords.
Ultimately, fixing this entire crisis really just boils down to one simple human question that every leader and every employee needs to ask themselves. Do we still believe in each other? Because when the answer to that is yes, the energy, the initiative, and the creativity, it all comes rushing back.